are here for a podcast. All disciplines, paths, players, game masters, and enthusiasts like myself and Josh. I am, of course, Dan. With me is Josh.
And I am, of course, Josh.
Absolutely. If you couldn't tell it by now.
Hi, everybody. 49. There are a smooth, well-oiled machine we got going here.
In
49. The
4 dozen and one
the
podcasts ago. No, I'm just kidding.
4 dozen and one. Yeah. The number of episodes recently surpassed the number of years on my
mine too.
Tally.
Yeah. Can't cut me in half and count the rings. I'd rather you not. Yeah. One away from 50.
So what are we talking about this
Today,
week, Dan?
we are actually going to talk about all things. Oh, the hell with it. We're going to talk about the Gauntlet because it's just time
We're going to talk about the Gauntlet. All things forceful.
Yes. And powerful. I was reading.
All things immovable, objectable.
Exactly. So if you have any questions for what we're going to talk about today, feel free to email us at edsgpodcast@gmail.com. Email is free. We will take that because we're not giving you any home addresses. But I was reading this last night in preparation for tonight's podcast, actually, and I was making mental note through the essay that the Gauntlet reads as, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong because you were part of the development, part elementalist, part purifier, part quester of Minbruges, and part mystic warrior, since it's all unarmed combat from the Earthdawn journal way back in number 2. So it's like 25% of each of those, or maybe a 20-30% split. But really, that was my impression. So I think this is a unique enough discipline that it warranted its own episode, as we're going to do today, of course. But
yes,
it didn't sound like anything I'd read before for Earthdawn, and I like some of the new stuff.
No, so there's kind of there's a few different things going on with the Gauntlet that are pretty cool. So one of the things, like it's sort of early conceptual development from a mechanic standpoint, was to try and do a different approach. Mm-hmm. We had talked about in previous discipline episodes, like the different styles of close combat, right? Like we've got the sword master who's like flash and agility and whatnot. We've got the warrior who's kind of all around. We've got the sky raider who's like the real sort of forceful, aggressive
and
style.
The beastmaster.
We've got the cavalryman obviously on the mount, and the beastmaster who's kind of an unarmed. But all of those ultimately, in some respects, rely on a certain amount of acting early and acting quickly and having that kind of approach to things. And the Gauntlet is mechanically kind of reinforces and has abilities that take a very, very different approach to a close combat character, which is to say, rather than going with acting quickly and doing multiple attacks like the warrior and the sword master, what can be designed and built to make a more slower, deliberate only hits once, but hits really, really hard kind of, for lack of a better term, like One Punch Man kind of thing. So that was part of what's going on. The other was in the course of Morgan's conceptual work as he was developing the paths, the various paths for Mystic Paths, and looking at what was done before and what could be taken and adjusted. And you're right, it does kind of take the Purifier, and that the Purifier discipline as it existed in earlier editions was kind of a mishmash of things. Like it was the obsidimen discipline. It was kind of built around this idea of like cleansing and healing the land, and was a kind of unarmed combat type. So what Morgan did was he kind of took those different themes and kind of broke them out separately, and took the unarmed combat aspect of the original Purifier and married it in a sense to this idea of the slow, deliberate kind of obsidimen style fighter. Although other races can follow, other name givers can follow it. It is kind of lore-wise, it originated and is primarily followed by obsidimen. And divide, and while it still has a little bit of the old Purifier flavor in terms of that, the thematic idea of healing the land got moved off into the Purifier path. The more obsidian-focused aspects of it got moved off into Brother of Stone. So you've got this kind of like 3 different things that all kind of originated from that old discipline. and I think made each of them kind of stronger by allowing a much better thematic focus as a result. The elemental themes of the Gauntlet kind of play into the idea of them being kind of originally obsidimen, and the earth that kind of goes along with that brings in a little bit more, kind of that aspect of things. And then again, just kind of playing with, the Min Bruges idea and whatnot is, a little bit in there, but is not as much of a thing. But the Gauntlet is the slow, deliberate brick wall bruiser that is not the flashy combatant, is not the, they are both the unstoppable force and immovable object. Like, if you're looking at, to draw some pop culture comparisons here, I'm just kind of riffing off the top of my head here. Juggernaut from Marvel Comics. I could see as a gauntlet.
Absolutely.
Ben Grimm, the Thing, could also be a gauntlet. Like, any of the big, superhero brick bruiser, fisticuff style characters would fit the Gauntlet to a T.
I could see that.
And, pugilist, boxer, again, the unarmed combat that is very deliberately a different style from the Beastmaster, which is kind of the feral mimicking the fighting styles of animals. This is drawing strength from the elements of the earth and being the bulwark of stone and stuff like that.
So I may cut this part out of the podcast real quick. Did the talent Horde Blows make it into 4th edition, or has that not been moved over yet?
I don't know.
Okay, fair enough. Because I thought that the Gauntlet would be perfect for Horde Blows.
Yeah, Horde Blows was a Liberator ability originally.
Yeah. So I didn't see it in the Gauntlet, but I figured I would at least ask because I thought it would be ideal if that.
It is a knack for Liberators.
Oh, cool. Cool.
Horde Blows. It is a knack off of Tyranny's Ruin.
Wow.
Which is a talent that Liberators get.
Okay. I was thinking if.
So it is still in there. It is not. Yeah. Gauntlets get sort of they don't. They don't sort of build up a charge that they then release the way that the Liberator did with Horde Blows. Fair. The Gauntlets' mechanical power comes from other places.
Fair enough. Morgan's probably listening to this and yelling at me right now, which is fine. It was a question I thought to ask. So, okay. So let's get down to the brass tacks on the Gauntlets. They turn their bodies into living weapons because, of course, they are going to be the unarmed combatant. And my friend, who has played with me now for 25 years, in almost every single role-playing game that we're ever in, always asks, where's my martial artist? Where's my unarmed combatant that, my Jackie Chan, my Bruce Lee, the badass that doesn't bother to need a weapon? So where are they?
Yeah. So if you're looking at the Gauntlet as a Jackie Chan / Bruce Lee type, you're going to be disappointed.
No, he was just saying.
Because Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, yes, there is not really a traditional D&D Monk style martial artist, really, in Earthdawn. Gauntlet is kind of the closest, but they, Bruce Lee's thing was Jeet Kune Do's, there's a lot of, speed and really short, there's a lot of power in it, but it's also very, showbiz style. I mean, it's effective, but, it's very, quick movements and whatnot.
It's very rapid.
And that is not the Gauntlet style. There still is not, and I think intentionally so, because of various reasons, there isn't what you think of as a martial artist, flurry of blows, monk, unarmed combatant type
exactly
in Earthdawn. It's not something that is, I think, really thematically appropriate to the type of setting that it is. It feels a bit appropriation-y in a sense. There's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but that's not the style of the Gauntlet.
That's okay.
But if you are looking to play an unarmed combatant, and for whatever reason the Beastmaster does not fit your style, the Gauntlet is the one to look at.
Agreed. So we're going to dig in a little bit deeper on this one right now. So the important attributes are, and these are just alphabetical: perception, strength, and willpower. I'm imagining that strength might outweigh the rest, but that's just me.
Well, I mean, the idea is strength needs to be higher. They do get talents that kind of enhance their damage capability. But if you are looking at an unarmed combatant, strength is what their damage is going to be based off of, and it would need to be higher than you would normally expect for a swordmaster or a warrior who would have weapons and magic weapons on top of that to overcome whatever shortcomings they might have as far as strength goes.
So a windling is not recommended, but you can be a windling gauntlet. It just might...
A windling gauntlet, yeah. I've heard of people actually like working up with windling gauntlets for games.
I
you know, like any kind of windling close combat character, you're potentially going to run into some issues early on before you get the talent ranks to really overcome things. But the windlings get the bonus to perception. They get a little bit of a higher dexterity that, you know, would enhance their defense and survivability a little bit early on.
But
yeah, there's some good stuff.
I would welcome that challenge. So anyway, the karma ritual takes into account all of the elements around them. So like you said, leading back to the obsidimen genesis for the gauntlet, it's very elemental based. And this is where I came up with the mishmash that I said. This is where they lean heavily on the elementalist portion, because they surround themselves and extend their senses, feeling the earth, fire, water, wood around them that's in the immediate surroundings. And so, yeah, it's a little cool little karma ritual for them. So the artisan skills are body painting and rune carving, merely suggestions, of course, because, you know, any artisan skill you'd like for your character, of course, you don't have to follow these two, but they're not too bad to have. But the half magic is of knowledge of the elements, unarmed fighting techniques, and style. They also can use half magic to resist fatigue and distractions. So very, very useful half magic abilities for the gauntlet.
Yeah. Focus is one of the strong themes of the gauntlet, in that, as their karma ritual describes, they spend that 30 minutes not only kind of feeling the world around them, but they focus that concentration down to a singular point, to a singular moment, and then act. Yeah. And that is a very, like, that focus, that ability to not be distracted is something that is kind of a key aspect of the Gauntlet's philosophy and how they unlock their sort of one perfect strike approach to things.
Had I written the essay, I don't think I could have done any better, by the way. I would have only added like one quote from a Gauntlet disciple, which would be that focus is where power comes from, because I'm borrowing that from one of my favorite authors. Anyway, so on to the discipline. The rest of it, they get a durability of 7, because of course they are a upfront combatant and no free talents.
Yep.
And the discipline talents are going to be pretty obvious at first circle. Avoid blow. I'm going to skip one.
There's your defensive talent. You are, you know, if you're going to be in a close combat, having a defensive talent that allows you to not get hit at times can be useful. The Gauntlet does get a bit more on the defensive side, as we'll see as we go through their progression.
Absolutely.
But avoid blow is, for any kind of close combat, physical combat character, is almost a given. It is too useful
not to
otherwise.
I'm going to skip the main one here in a second or so. So we've got thread weaving, because you have gauntlet weaving. And then you have unarmed combat and wound balance. So
yeah, unarmed combat is your primary attack talent. Like, that's what you use when you are punching people. Yep. So you've got to get that. Wound balance is a counterpart, again, focuses for kind of the resilience and durability theme of the Gauntlet, that basically allows you to stay standing when you do take a hit, even if that is a heavy hit that causes a wound. So that applies very appropriately.
Because being knocked down,
and then the one you skipped,
body control.
Being knocked down, as we've discussed many times,
not good. So yes, body control is the other main focus of what the Gauntlet will do from here on out, and it's a talent listed in the Mystic Paths. So
this is sort of the Gauntlet equivalent to Claw Shape. Mm-hmm. It does not provide the additional bonus that Claw Shape does, but it adds its rank to the Gauntlet's strength for purposes of doing unarmed combat. And part of the reason that it does not get the bonus that Claw Shape does is that Gauntlets get other talents that provide additional bonuses that will enhance that further. So there's no need to make up that shortcoming that claw shape kind of does for the
So,
warrior, or for the
in
Beastmaster.
essence, unarmed combat to hit, body control for damage.
Damage. Yep.
And since it's a discipline talent, or any talent, you can use karma on that immediately for your damage.
Exactly.
So let's not belie that. Let's not ignore that point there. So that's first circle. Second circle, they of course get a bonus to their physical defense, +1. Got to start somewhere. And then they get their other talent, specifically in the Mystic Paths book, Deliberate Assault, which just sounds cool.
Yes. So this is where the Gauntlets wait for the one perfect moment starts to manifest. This is a talent that basically when they can reduce their initiative by any amount down to 0, effectively.
Go last.
It does not count as a reserved or delayed action for the typical purposes of the rules. What happens is that when they strike somebody who has a higher initiative, they gain a bonus to their attack equal to the difference between their chosen initiative result and like basically the difference between their initiatives up to a maximum of their deliberate assault rank. So if you have deliberate assault at rank 3, you can get up to a +3 bonus on your attack test by acting 3 or more ticks behind your chosen target in the initiative count.
So if you've got...
And so basically what you end up with is like you see this situation where you've got, because you are going to be acting towards the end of the round, you are going to ideally be acting last. Warrior or a swordmaster or whatever is coming at you, and they've used Tiger Spring or Air Dance or whatever to act first and come up and moving against you. You want the avoid blow and the wound balance so that you can potentially not get hit, and if you do get hit, stay standing. So that, because obviously if you get knocked down, then saving your action until later penalizes you because you either need to get up or you're going to be attacking from the ground at a penalty. So you really want to look at getting those defensive talents up in order to get that perfect opportunity to just punch your opponent and get a bonus to your attack test as a result, and go with that. There is, again, a very deliberately different play style with the Gauntlet compared to other close combat disciplines, and it can take a little bit of work to get used to it, but for the right person, it is ideal.
Fair. I think it's like taking on a wizard. You are more of a planner as far as combat's concerned. Every time you should do your karma ritual, you should think about this scenario happens and I should act this way in this combat so that I make sure to do what I do best when I get there. So third circle, the Gauntlet can now spend a karma point on a recovery test because you're going to be getting hit. That's kind of half the battle there is.
Again, playing into the theme of endurance and resilience that plays the part of the Gauntlet. So you get that karma on recovery.
And then your discipline talent at third circle is Steal Thought, because I always thought that would be a good thing for them to have because, they're going to stand right there in the middle of things and take it. Yeah, sometimes it's a spell.
Yep. It's another defensive ability. It is useful against Anticipate Blow, because Anticipate Blow targets Mystic Defense. You could use Steal Thought to to counter Anticipate Blow to prevent your opponent who might be coming after you with that talent from getting their bonus, for their bonus from that talent. And of course, it also helps you resist spells and things like that could cause you problems as well.
Always.
So it's another defensive talent that just, again, continues that theme of being the bulwark, of being very difficult to put down, to stop, that kind of works alongside wound balance and avoid blow in terms of the defensive suite of abilities that the Gauntlet gets.
And then fourth circle, they added a +1 to their mystic defense. So that's one physical, one mystic. And then the discipline talent is Studied Counter, another one straight out of the Mystic Paths book, not in the regular book.
Yes. So Studied Counter is great. This is kind of in a way, the opposite of Anticipate Blow. That basically you make the adept makes a studied counter test, and it's based off perception, which is part of the reason why perception is an important attribute for the gauntlet, against the mystic defense of the opponent who has already taken their standard action. The gauntlet then gets a +2 per success to their next attack and damage test against that target.
Yeah. I figure the perception is important because they need to actually, aside from the studied counter, is to actually analyze the attack style of like their half magic says.
Thematically that is important, but mechanically you want to have that high perception so that you can get the studied counter. Oh yeah, deliberate assault does not have a test, it's just a rank.
Yeah.
Okay. But you basically you combine deliberate assault where you reduce your initiative and get a bonus to your attack test. You then get studied counter where you get an additional bonus to your attack test plus a bonus to your damage, plus any extra successes that you get off of your increased attack test against the target will also provide additional damage. So you can start to see where, especially as you start getting more and more ranks in those things, where those can really add up. And those bonuses are intentionally, again, because the gauntlet doesn't get, as we'll see when we get into the journeyman tier, doesn't get multi-attack talents.
Yeah.
They get one attack, and so they basically just stack as many bonuses as they can on top of that one attack to basically hit once and hit really hard, as opposed to a warrior or a swordmaster who will hit 2 or 3 times and do, relatively speaking, a little bit less damage per hit, but add up to more damage overall.
Yeah,
and what that also means for the gauntlet is that the gauntlet is actually very good at overcoming armor because they hit once so hard and have a higher damage result that will overcome armor more effectively than if a target has an armor rating of 5. Hitting them once for 15 damage is better than hitting them
3 times
for 5 damage each, because all 3 of those get soaked. Otherwise, you've done 10. So, the gauntlet is very effective against high armor opponents.
Yeah, so they were made with the mechanics in mind, rightfully so. So that's the first 4 circles. Let's talk about the options, because I find no issue with any of those. Only 3 of those talents are out of the Mystic Paths book, as they're described: body control, deliberate assault, and studied counter. But I am going to mimic the thought of the Mystic Warrior, which is that they are a strain sponge, so they will just take a little bit of strain to get almost everything done. Body control does not take any strain, so that's the good news there. So the options...
No, body control does not cause any strain. Yeah. Deliberate assault causes 1. Studied counter is 1. So, similar to the warrior in some respects, their combat enhancing abilities cost them strain. But they've got...
As they should.
They probably will want to have a decent toughness. They will want to have, they've got the durability 7, so they'll be able to have the points to handle that reasonably.
Absolutely. So the options, and all of these are out of the regular player's guide. So these are all standard fare. Awareness, because again, you got to have awareness.
It's a generally useful ability. They tend to have a higher perception. The theme of them studying their opponents and whatnot, awareness plays very nicely into that theme, even if awareness does not necessarily have a direct, immediate combat applicability. It still makes a lot of sense for them from a thematic standpoint.
Then battle shout, because I think that should thematically go right up their alley as well.
Yep. If you can impose penalties upon your target, this is a little bit of the aggression and physical force, for the similar idea that you have with the Sky Raider. So you can intimidate or rattle your target, impose penalties on them, which again makes it a little bit tougher for them to hit you. So that's certainly an option for someone who might be going with a little bit more of an aggressive style.
Absolutely. Danger sense, because again, you can maybe take some of the blows, but why would you want to take them all?
Danger sense, again, plays nicely into their awareness and high perception themes. The ability to, if you are someone who is going to be studying your opponent and looking for that one perfect moment, having an awareness of potential ambushes and situations like that would be well applied for you, as well as the ability to deal more effectively with surprise traps and whatnot can also come in handy. Not required, but certainly would be appropriate for the right type.
It's an option. And the most interesting option, I think, on this list for the first 4 circles is etiquette.
Yeah, going with the idea that most disciplines need to have maybe a little bit of a social aspect of them, but they're not really the type. While first impression is generally a little bit more useful in some respects, etiquette plays into them being a lot more like deliberate and intentioned than first impression would. Yeah. That they get a sense of how to behave in a certain situation and a greater awareness of what's going on, and that plays into that.
Yeah, this is more of the, I'm going to read the room and see where I fall in that. Fireblood, which is right up their alley for a gauntlet.
Recovery talent plays into the elemental theme, the earth and fire kind of idea there. Very nice to be able to heal damage in combat if you are in a case where that becomes potential.
Absolutely. Item history, I think, is a nice little nuance to have.
Yeah, if you're going to be going with a little bit more of a mystical approach to the gauntlet, a little bit more of the philosophical and perception-based, being able to turn that perception and that focus onto an item and learn about it would certainly be useful.
Totally.
Probably, in terms of if I were to take these optional talents and rate them in terms of desirability, it's probably down a little bit lower, because you've got troubadours and wizards and neithermancers and weaponsmiths that all kind of play in that same space. But the gauntlet can pick it up because it does play a little bit into that focus and perception.
And I think it fleshes them out nicely as not just simply a blunt object. And so it makes them more well-rounded.
There is a very philosophical approach to them that plays into that as well.
And that needs to be utilized. Then you have maneuver, which is underrated and one of my absolute favorites of all time.
That is another combination sort of defensive and offensive talent. It can pair very nicely with deliberate assault and studied counter, in terms of providing you some additional defensive capability and a little bit of additional offensive oomph on top of that, if successful.
Absolutely.
Because maneuver does not require any kind of initiative advantage one way or the other for it to be useful.
All right. Mystic Pursuit. Again, a nice little character wrinkle to throw in there, because I think it would be useful to not only be able to analyze the attack, but be able to find where that person went to if their combatant retreated.
Yeah, again, kind of play in the similar kind of theme as item history. It is something that plays into the awareness and the focus and the perception in a similar kind of way to the archer. It has a kind of focus and perception theme, but it's a very different philosophical approach that the gauntlet would have compared to the archer.
So I like that to make a more well-rounded character. And then we have wilderness survival, because that just makes total sense with the elementalist theme running through them.
Yeah, with the elements theme and the survivability and endurance themes that plays right into that very nicely.
And then woodskin, because why would you not have woodskin if you are playing a gauntlet?
You wouldn't necessarily need to take both Fireblood and Woodskin, because they're both kind of defensive abilities that do similar things. And at least early on, you don't really have the recovery tests to necessarily be handling both. And so you might not need to take both of those options. But, again, it plays into the survivability and endurance traits, and also has the elemental flavor to it. So it's absolutely appropriate.
So on to the journeyman tiers. We've got 5th circle. They get elemental stance. And again, as we've said, a lot of disciplines get a lot of things at 5th circle. So they get elemental stance. After actions are declared for the round, but before any are taken, the adept can spend 1 strain to use elemental stance. They gain +2 to their unarmed attack test, unarmed damage test, physical armor, or mystic armors. Any one of those 4.
Any one of those 4, yes.
So that is not bad to get a +2 unarmed attack, unarmed damage, or physical or mystic armor. That's not a bad thing. First, just a point of strain, worth it, I will say. Because then you can change it every single round. You can change which one you need every single round if you want to, for another point of strain every single round. So not bad. They also get a karma modifier, which is the gauntlet can now spend a karma point on any unarmed damage test, which is the only damage test you should be making.
And this stacks with the karma that you could spend because of body control. So it basically allows the gauntlet to spend a second point of karma on damage if they wish.
So add 2d6 to that. And your discipline talent of course, earth skin, since we just brought up wood skin. So
yeah, you don't need to have wood skin to get earth skin. Earth skin is given as a discipline talent because it provides the bonus to mystic defense. Some things that are a little bit more useful for the gauntlet compared to woodskin. And again, because we've got Fireblood and woodskin as options, they will probably take one or the other. But earthskin is a really nice talent that provides some bonuses in areas that you don't really get a lot of bonuses otherwise for combat characters.
So sixth circle, they get another bonus to their physical defense, now at a +2 total, and they get temper flesh as the discipline talent.
This allows them to increase their armor, making it even harder to deal damage to.
Yeah. So it's the ever-escalating arms race. Now they're doing more damage, and they're able to take more if they get hit at all. So a whole lot more fun. Seventh circle, they get they get another recovery test per day now. So again, adding to you're going to sit there and take it, then you need to be able to recover from it. But the discipline talent of crushing blow, absolutely appropriate.
Yep, this is a damage adder. This basically just continues to increase the amount of damage that the gauntlet can dish out with their strike.
So nicely done. Eighth circle. The adept adds a +2 to their mystic defense, so they now have a total of +2. So 2 physical and now 2 mystic across the board up to eighth circle, and they get the new discipline talent of focused strike.
Basically, this enhances their damage even more. They add their focused strike step to a damage test result.
And this can be combined with crushing blow.
Do it. Yeah, basically, in this, again, the idea being that the restrictions that they can only make one attack, like from elemental stance, and focus strike can only be done with one attack. But the idea being that, yes, you only can make one attack, but we are going to allow you to stack these body control and crushing blow and focus strike and just
wail.
Bang out a single high power
Hulk smash
rocket punch.
Exactly. So the optional talents for Journeyman, Astral Sight, which again is that whole perceptive, looking at the
bringing again that little bit of mystic philosophical flavor in their high perception.
Yeah. Always good to have. Cold Purify
allows you to resist poison or disease and heal damage dealt by the same. Again, plays into the resilience and endurance themes.
Always. Evidence Analysis, which I think is the whole increased perception as well, just because they should be more astute at dismantling an attack toward them, and that just means that they are more astute at noticing all kinds of things around them. Fire Heal, because if you have Fire Blood, you need to have Fire Heal.
Fire Heal. Well, Fire Heal is useful even if you don't have Fire Blood, because Fire Heal allows you to get additional recovery tests. And that can power not only Fire Blood, but also Wood Skin or Earth Skin, or just use them as additional recovery healing. Better. So that is if you are looking to do a very resilient character, Fire Heal can be a really great way to enhance that.
And I just like the fact that if you can have the elements of fire in one, you have to have the element of fire the other way because it goes along thematically. And then Iron Constitution, again, thematically nice, just for the names, but incredibly useful.
Yeah. Just boosting that resistance ability even further for stuff like that.
Lionheart is a nice little
resisting
option.
Fear.
And then Resist Taunt, another option.
Another defensive talent to resist kind of the social targeting things. You've already got the physical, you've got the mystic. Here's your social defense protection.
And then Spot Armor Flaw, because as the point you made earlier, they get really good at that.
They've got the high perception, so it works really nicely for them in that regard, and it provides even more potential damage.
Steely Stare, because if you are that much of a badass, you should be able to pull off this look. And I agree with that. And then Waterfall Slam, which I think we've only ever covered like once or twice before, so remind us.
Yeah, Warrior is the only other discipline that gets this talent. This basically enhances knockdown. So when you are either deliberately attacking to knock down or you deal a wound, which because they tend to be doing a single high damage strike, gauntlets deal wounds pretty frequently in ideal circumstances, then Waterfall Slam enhances the ability to go even further in terms of putting their opponent on the ground.
Yeah. So we are going to actually, we've only been at this for 39 minutes now. We're actually going to do something we haven't done before for any other discipline and go past 8th Circle. So welcome to the Warden talents for the Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet being new, we don't have as much like sort of context historical stuff to deal with.
Well, and
but yeah, we're gonna at least kind of,
and all but like 4 of those talents are in the other books. We've talked about them. I can't say ad nauseum, but plenty in other regards. So we have some extra time to kind of fully flesh out the Gauntlet. So this is the only episode you will ever need when you go to make a Gauntlet character. So they get a 9th Circle ability, which is very verbose, called Pattern Infusion.
Yeah, because we haven't covered the high circle stuff for any discipline yet, one of the things that kind of shows up with a lot of disciplines at 9th Circle, at Warden tier, is they generally get some kind of long-term or permanent bonus as part of that. It's frequently kind of blood magic or strain related, and usually pretty impressive. In the Gauntlet's case, like is a good chunk of that is just flavor text in terms of describing what it is.
It's a ritual.
But basically, the Gauntlet takes 1 blood magic, takes 1 permanent damage, and either gains a +3 to their unarmed damage tests or +3 to their physical armor. And they can change that ritual again, like they can basically like let it lapse and perform it again to get the other bonus if they did want to change it.
That's a permanent change. They just do the ritual. They have that. They move on.
Basically the bonus lasts for as long as they keep that blood magic active.
So if they want to change it, today I want to do more damage, go. Today there's a bigger fight coming. I want to increase my physical armor. Go. Just take 8 hours, do the ritual, and move on. So that's not a bad thing to have. So
right. I mean, the ritual like takes a day. It is not something that you can change on a whim. But if you have enough time to prepare in advance and you do want to change it, you can. But hey, look, yet another way that the Gauntlet can stack bonuses to their damage.
And if they have the perception to analyze the situation well enough to say, I have exactly 8 hours, I can do this, let me prepare, then you're good. But they also get a karma ability, because it's 9th Circle, of course. They get a karma ability. They can now spend a karma point on any active defense test. Avoid blow, resist taunt, all that stuff. And their discipline talent is critical hit.
Yep. If they achieve at least 3 successes on an attack test. So that is, they hit +2 additional successes. So much like Air Dance, if they get 10 or more above their target's physical defense, then they increase the damage by their rank in critical hit. So again, even more damage.
Even more stacking. So they should be, sorry, bad joke, a one-hit wonder. On to 10th Circle.
Yes.
The Gauntlet now adds a total of +3 to their physical defense. So they're now... And they get a
+1 to their mystic armor.
Yeah, +1 to the mystic armor. And the discipline talent is Unflinching Fortitude.
Yes. What does that
mean? A lot of F's in that one.
Unflinching Fortitude. The adept resists taking major damage, adds their rank in Unflinching Fortitude to their wound threshold.
Wound threshold.
It's a wound threshold booster. It's just a permanent bonus. It doesn't cause any strain or need to be activated or anything like that.
So as many ranks as you put in that adds to your wound threshold. You therefore will not take a wound if you add, a boatload of ranks in that right off the bat. But it's at the Warden tier, so it'll cost you a lot more legend points. However, worth it to not take a wound. Yeah. So there's that. On to 11th Circle. The Gauntlet finally gets a +1 to their social defense. Because, by that point, maybe you want to protect that a little bit. But you also get to spend a karma point on any unarmed attack tests once per round.
Well, I mean, this is basically an additional karma point that can be spent on attack tests.
Yeah.
Continuing that stacking karma ability.
So just to have plenty of D6s handy. But your discipline talent at 11th Circle is Spirit Strike. which I've always loved.
Yes, this allows you to attack a target by its, like, to physically attack a target with a strike or a blade or whatever, but you do it through astral space, so it targets the mystic defense, and it does damage as normal.
Yeah.
You do need to astrally sense your target in some way in order to get the most effect out of it, because otherwise you suffer a penalty, kind of like being striking blind. But it also allows you, if you are aware of a target in astral space, like a spirit or horror or something like that, it allows you to attack them as well. So you can use it to attack somebody in astral space or in physical space.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you target mystic defense instead of physical defense. Otherwise, you do damage as normal.
So, and look, Astral Sight was available back at the Journeyman tier. Why would you not pick that up? So, on to 12th Circle. The Gauntlet finally tops out at a +3 total to their base mystic defense that they started with.
Yeah, so at this point, they've got +3 physical, +3 mystic, +1 social.
And they also get a second additional recovery test per day. So now they have 2 recovery tests per day, more than they started with. So that's not bad either. And they get another discipline talent called Patient Resilience.
Yes. If their initiative is less than their rank in Patient Resilience, they gain the difference between them as a bonus to their physical and mystic armor until the end of the round. So if you have a Patient Resilience at rank 5 and you're acting on initiative 1 or 0, which you will generally be doing as often as you can, you basically gain, if that case, let's say you go on initiative count 1, so you've got a difference of 4, you get a +2 each to your physical and your mystic armor until the end of the round. Until the end of the next round.
By the description of what this looks like,
the difference is odd, you get to choose where the extra point goes.
And I think because of the description that is written with the Patient Resilience as to what happens and how it looks, I think that is actually referring to the cover art on the Mystic Paths book. So,
yeah, the cover of the Mystic Paths book is a gauntlet, like tripping off a whole bunch of their abilities. The other thing is you get your Patient Resilience rank as a bonus to your Deliberate Assault rank for the purposes of determining the maximum bonus to your next attack test.
Yeah. So math is involved in playing a gauntlet.
Yeah, there is some math involved.
That's okay. So the talent options for 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th Circle for the Warden are Blood Share.
We've talked about that with the Cavalrymen primarily, but also the Beastmaster, I think, gets access to it as an option. It allows you to exchange damage between yourself and a willing target.
Fair enough. Burning Vigor.
Oh, no, it provides additional recovery tests equal to your rank in Burning Vigor that may be used to spend on talents like Wood Skin, Fire Blood, blah, 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 blah. So it basically, like, it gives you a bunch of bonus recovery tests that you can... They don't do recovery, but they can be used to power talents that effectively duplicate recovery abilities. It also provides a bonus to raw strength tests, like breaking down a door or lifting a heavy rock or anything like that. It doesn't add to damage, but any kind of raw strength application, it provides a bonus to that.
Very, very handy talent. Defensive Posture.
Defensive Posture is basically just a straight bonus to adds the defensive posture rank to an action test that improves physical defense. Like maneuver, for example.
So, incredibly useful.
So it basically enhances that even further.
Life.
It also applies to avoid blow or any kind of active defense tests against appropriate targets.
Cool. Life check.
If your damage rating if you take more damage and you would be dead, you can immediately make a life check test to heal damage and not be dead.
That might sound handy. Just saying. Something like that. Lion Spirit.
Lion Spirit is similar to, it's basically like the Warden tier, like enhancement of Lion Heart. Lion Spirit adds its rank to your mystic and social defense against any kind of fear or intimidation. So it's just a flat bonus, whereas Lion Heart allows you to make tests to throw those off. Lion Spirit just increases the base difficulty for those to affect you in the first place.
So, Matrix Sight.
Matrix Sight allows you to specifically target spell matrices. So if you want to punch a spell matrix, and potentially if you do enough damage to the spell matrix, you will break it, and it will know until it recovers, which requires the magician to spend a recovery test or spend time or something like that to sort of fix it. It can no longer hold a spell.
That's a nice little punch to do there. I see your spells, and I will punch them away from you.
But basically what you can do, like in conjunction with Spirit Strike, use Matrix Sight, you can see the spell matrix, and then you can Spirit Strike and actually target the matrix specifically. Matrix Sight also gives you some insight into, like, you can detect spell matrices, you can identify the type of spell, like you can identify the type of matrix, you can potentially identify the discipline. And if you're a magician and you have pattern craft, then you can actually, if you have enough successes, use pattern craft to maybe identify the specific spell that it has.
There you go.
But for the Gauntlets case, the primary purpose of Matrix Sight is to be able to see matrices so that you can punch them with Spirit Strike and break them.
Still somewhat of a blunt object, but that's okay. Next up is Relentless Recovery.
Relentless Recovery adds its rank to toughness when you are making normal recovery tests. Which just provides a bonus to your standard regular recovery test. It doesn't apply to like Fire Blood or things like that. But if you're just...
I'm going to heal.
It's an hour later, I'm making just a straight recovery test. You actually roll Relentless Recovery instead. It provides a bonus.
No, fine. I think that's incredibly helpful because that's just a higher number to roll. Resist Pain, which is always good.
Resist Pain is really, really nice. Resist Pain, each rank in Resist Pain allows you to ignore a penalty from wounds.
Yeah. Awesome. Hopefully you're not getting it in the first place. Vine Armor.
Vine Armor is it's basically an enhancement to Woodskin. Add your rank in Vine Armor to your Woodskin test, and it provides you an additional +2 to your Mystic Armor for the duration of the Woodskin if you meet certain conditions. So it's optional because you might not have taken Woodskin as an option, and obviously it doesn't make sense to take that if you didn't also take Woodskin.
And then last, the option for the Warden talent tier is Vital Strike.
You can do even more damage. You spend a recovery... do even more damage. Basically what it allows you to do, if you successfully attack a target, you may spend a recovery test to deal additional damage. So this is on top of whatever damage you might normally be doing, equal to the result of Vital Strike. And Vital Strike is rank plus toughness. It is considered a separate damage test, and only the target's natural Mystic Armor applies. Ooh. And this could potentially deal an additional wound. So the Gauntlet doesn't get an additional attack, but if they pick up Vital Strike, they get an additional secondary damage test from their punch. Yeah. But it costs a recovery test to use. Now, fortunately, you have Relentless Recovery, or whatever it was called, that gives you all of those bonus recovery. Burning Vigor gives you all those bonus recovery tests that you can spend to power the ability.
So, all these things are stacking up. Keep track of your math on a little piece of paper next to you. So,
by this point, you're like, 12th circle or whatever.
9, 10, 11, or 12. You can pick up Vital Strike to go along with your Spirit Strike. That sounds like a nice little 1-2. I can't call it a 1-2 punch because that's just cheesy, but yeah.
We haven't talked a lot about Warden and Master tier stuff. The power, the numbers and the power that can be brought to bear by adepts of this caliber are very impressive.
Because you're talking into the 20s on your steps already, plus all these things that stack. The Gauntlet should be rolling in the 30s, if not the low 40s for some of this stuff.
Oh yeah, easily.
So this is the fun part. And then we get to the 13th, 14th, and 15th circle. So at 13th circle, they get a whole bunch of stuff. So they get Pattern Manifestation. For 4 strain, the adept fully manifests and strengthens their pattern in their body, amplifying the visible effects from Pattern Manifestation. All attacks made with body control gain one of the following keywords. Additionally, the adept gains +3 to unarmed attack tests, unarmed damage tests, physical armor, and mystic armor. All of those.
Which does not stack with pattern infusion.
But they get a +3 unarmed attack, +3 unarmed damage, +3 physical armor, and +3 mystic armor. Booyah.
And you can basically turn your attacks into earth, metal, fire, cold, or wood, which means that you could use it for enemies that are susceptible to certain elemental types. You can infuse your blows with that elemental type, which generally means that it either ignores or is not reduced by armor quite so much.
And then that's not all. They get 5 more things: defense, karma, a bonus, a discipline talent, and an optional talent. So here we go. They get a final +4 to their physical defense from where they started. They get a +1 karma steps. Now they're rolling a D8 for all of their karma die. And then they get a +1 to their base initiative step, finally, because they should go last, but just in case.
Not that they need it.
And then the discipline talent is stone skin. There's wood skin, earth skin, now stone skin.
This is an enhancement to earth skin. Yeah, this is an enhancement to earth skin. Basically, it adds its rank to the earth skin test when you make it, and it adds an additional effect on top of that where it provides a physical armor bonus on top of the normal effects of earth skin. So it's basically just even more defensive
and
resilience.
Then they get an option, which we'll talk about in a minute or so. So they get a whole bunch of stuff at 13th Circle, so get there when you can. 14th Circle, the Gauntlet finally adds a total of +4 to their Mystic defense from where they started. They get a +2 to their Mystic armor from where they started. And they get the discipline talent of Vicious Wound.
So we talked about in the last episode the Nethermancer Knack Bleed, which reduces the target's wound threshold when used successfully. Vicious Wound basically does the same thing. They make a test against the target, but in this case, each success reduces the target's wound threshold by 2 for the rest of the round. Only against the attacks that the Gauntlet makes. So it doesn't apply to everybody, but only to the Gauntlets.
But it's not a -1. It's a -2.
And on top of that, for each additional success beyond the wound threshold for the damage that they deal an additional wound. So you are potentially dealing not only wounds against the lowered wound threshold, but multiple wounds at once.
Oh, that's just a chef's kiss right there. Just that is beautiful at 14th Circle. And we're not done.
I'm going to punch you for 60. I'm going to punch you for 60 damage and cause 7 wounds.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Again, the whole point is ideally in combat situations like that, you're likely going up against major opponents like horrors
at
and
14th
whatnot,
Circle,
who have really high values that you're looking to.
Yeah. You should be up against some serious combatants, but hit first, hit hardest, leave a good looking corpse. 15th Circle, the end of the road, more or less. The Gauntlet finally adds a +2 to the social defense from where they started. So +4 physical by now, +4 mystic by now, +2 social by now, not bad, pretty well rounded. And they have now gotten an additional 3 recovery tests per day base on top of whatever other recovery test talents they happen to have. And the final discipline talent is Shatter Will. Not a guy named Will. But
so Shatter Will manifests the focus of the Gauntlet into a ranged attack. Within Shatter Will times 2 yards, they make a rank plus will test against the target's mystic defense. It's a free action. If successful, the target suffers a -2 to their physical, mental, and social defenses per success until the end of the round. It just basically is a crippling blow. It can only be used once per round, but you basically focus it on a single target and just nerf their defenses into the ground.
Because I don't think I want to use that more than once per round, because that just sounds like the thermonuclear option, but that's just me. So that ends all 15 circles, but we have the options you can pick up on 13th, 14th, and 15th. Now you only get 3 of these because you've only got 3 circles to do this in, but here they are. Aura Armor.
Aura Armor, you make a test and add your rank in Aura Armor as a bonus to your physical and mystic armor for a number of rounds equal to the test result. So basically you just roll to see how long it lasts, and you gain a bonus to your defenses, to your armor ratings.
That's not bad. Champion Challenge, and we don't mean the graphic novel. We do mean the talent. Champion Challenge.
We do not. Champion Challenge, we had talked about this. I think it becomes, I don't know whether it's actually, we talked about this yet, but basically this allows a sort of ritualized formal duel. Each side in a conflict chooses a champion and they fight. And then like it imposes some kind of mystical effect, to the victor and the loser, and kind of messing with, like, interfering with the duel is bad mojo.
Fair enough.
It's complicated. It's in the companion, so we wouldn't have talked about it yet.
Fair enough.
It's like a formalized, ritualized duel between the chosen champion of two sides in a conflict.
So maybe not your first or second or third choice. Maybe not your first or second choice. Maybe a third choice when you finally get there. Because again, you only get to have 3 of these. Chilling Strike.
It provides a penalty to the target when you after you hit them. In addition to the normal damage after a successful attack, the Adept causes a penalty to the target's next initiative test equal to the rank in Chilling Strike. So basically, it's a slow effect. It reduces their initiative.
Okay. And because we did mention the nature of the gauntlet in interacting with all of the elements, they get Elemental Walk.
Yep. Elemental Walk basically allows the character to resist the effects of exposure to a single element for a short period of time, like walking on Death's Sea. They become immune to the damaging effects of the designated element for a number of minutes equal to the result of the Elemental Walk test. So if they chose water, they couldn't drown. Yeah. If they were attuned to air, they could breathe anything, smoke, poisonous gases, anything along those lines. They basically are immune to the engulf power of a spirit of that type. They are immune to elementalist spells that have a keyword of that element. You know, it doesn't enhance their physical abilities in any way, but it allows them to survive some pretty radical environmental conditions.
Yeah, it's very mystic for them. 4 to go. Ethereal Weapon.
It basically changes your weapon to deal damage against mystic armor instead of physical armor.
That's very handy.
And in addition, bonuses on the test provide bonuses to damage dealt with the weapon.
Very nice. Second Chance. Oh,
and
sorry.
It also, much like Astral Sight, or not Astral Sight, much like Spirit Strike, it allows you to attack targets in astral space if you're aware of them.
Very nice. Second Chance.
This is like available to everybody at this tier. You can roll. It basically gives you a second chance. If you fail a test, you can roll, or like if you were not happy with the result of your test, you can spend 3 strain and roll second chance rank plus charisma, and you may use that in its place.
This is you're pulling a mulligan? Okay.
Yeah. It's basically what it allows you to do.
I'm going to call a mulligan.
There's a little bit of mechanical fiddliness there in that if you have second chance higher than the original action that you were taken, like the rank, the total step is higher, you suffer a penalty equal to the difference, so that basically you can't cheese things by, I'm going to raise second chance all the way up and not have to worry about increasing other things. That, in a sense, not quite, but basically you can't roll higher than your original step that you made the test with second chance.
Fair enough. 2 more. Soul Aegis.
Soul Aegis. Each success on the test increases mystic and social defense by +2.
Not bad. So it's pretty.
It's another defensive
a little
booster.
Protection for you there. And the last one, because again, there's 8 options here. You've only got 3 circles with which to get them. It'll take you a while to get there. Vital Ward.
Vital Ward is similar to Vital Strike in that it requires you to spend a recovery test to activate, but it allows you after the fact. So you can make an active defensive test like avoid blow, riposte, whatever. After you have made the roll, if you're not happy with the result, you can spend a recovery test to add your rank in Vital Ward to that as a sort of add-on bonus.
So there's a lot of keeping track of your number of recovery tests
to the result.
So there's a lot of keeping track of your recovery tests for playing a Gauntlet.
That's what Burning Vigor is for. Burning Vigor and Fire Heal.
That's your asset management task.
I mean, those are things that are not. Those are sorts of things like Vital Ward is not intended as something that you kick off every time. It's I needed a 14, I needed a 23 on my avoid blow test. I only rolled a 20. I'll spend a recovery test and get that bonus right away to turn that failure into a success.
So that is our first ever walk through all 15 circles of one discipline in one sitting in one podcast. So this will wrap up the entire Gauntlet episode. Any final thoughts? I'm looking forward to either writing the novel that includes Gauntlets.
I have not personally seen. I have not personally seen the Gauntlet in play. I think the design stuff behind the Gauntlet. I think some of the options that are in there are really really cool. The Gauntlet is great. It is actually like the feedback from people who have played it is very positive. It is a popular, like it provides an entirely new play and combat style. And it like mechanically works really well. Morgan did a really great job with the few new talents that it introduced in terms of making its play style work. It's a really, really cool discipline that fills a niche that hadn't really been filled before in previous editions. So I really think it's great if you're, especially for veteran players who have been playing a lot of Earthdawn and might, have played like a lot of different disciplines and might be feeling a little bit burned out or uninspired by some of the choices available. The Gauntlet can very definitely bring in a new approach and appreciation for things.
I'm looking forward to making a Tiskrang Gauntlet because Tiskrang are awesome and Gauntlets are great to Josh's point. And I just think maybe occasionally working in a tail attack on that would just add a small little wrinkle here and there, which would be fun to you.
Yeah, you do run into some minor troubles there with that some of the Gauntlet powers restrict you to only attacking once, which doesn't pair very well with the tail attack. But that's not all of the Gauntlet abilities. So, you can kind of take advantage of that. But yeah, again, if you're looking for a tough, resilient, unarmed combat character, the Gauntlet is a very different style, and I think brings something very new and interesting to Earthdawn that has been pretty well received in general. So absolutely, if you have not picked up Mystic Paths, it is available in Mystic Paths and is a great potential thing to look at.
I'm looking forward to exploring that one. So in case my scout dies, I already know which character discipline I'm following next, and that is the one. So happy 16th discipline we've covered. That is the Gauntlet. Any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Nothing else, no. If you have any thoughts on the Gauntlet or questions or anything like that, you can send us an email, edsgpodcast@gmail.com. Here we are, episode 49.
Yes.
A little bit more than a year into our broadcast history. We would like to thank you all for continuing to come along on this ride with us. We really appreciate your feedback and your attention and your time.
We don't take it lightly.
We do not. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we hope you are doing well. Stay tuned. Coming up in the very near future, a very special episode.
Yeah, number 50. Because who thought we'd make it to 50 episodes?
Well, there you go.
Absolutely. Until then, folks, it is time for you
to
go run through your own Gauntlet and see what you can do with one. And by all means, play one and tell us how it works.
Punch your
legend hard.